pierwsze była...
It was the right atmosphere for a strike.
Przed godziną 6.
Before 6 a.m. we started distributing the leaflets.
I w każdej chwili mogłem zostać zatrzymany.
At any moment, I could have been stopped and arrested.
Więc
So, obviously, I was afraid.
z obawą.
Workers at the Lenin shipyard in Gdansk are angry enough to strike. Angry at recent price increases and the firing of a popular co-worker. But only a few realize their strike will pit them against the full force of the communist government in Poland.
Kiedy ludzie zaczęli krzyczeć, że
People started yelling, "Open the gate, we're going downtown to the regional Communist Party headquarters."
wtedy wiedzieliśmy,
Then we
że
knew we
trzeba
had to start singing the national anthem. That would calm people down.
uspokoi. Nie popełniły błędu.
We're not going to make the mistake of 1970, when we went into the streets and tanks rolled over us.
Every worker in Poland knows the story of December 1970. Strikers left the shipyard and marched on Communist Party headquarters. 6 were killed and 300 injured. They learned the futility of taking on armed troops in the street. One of them was a 27-year-old shipyard electrician named Lech Wałęsa. He was fired for union activism in 1976. But now, in 1980, he has returned to help organize the strike.
Ja przez te 10 lat
During those 10 years since 1970, when I was a leader in the same shipyard,
nad tym, gdzie były
I had been thinking where mistakes have been made.
los dał jeszcze raz stanąć na czele.
And if fate gave me a chance to lead again, how would I do it?
This time, Wałęsa and other strike leaders have planned carefully. Wałęsa is known and liked by many at the shipyard. He announces, "We will occupy the shipyard. I'll be the last to leave." Their strike will be strictly non-violent. The government will have no excuse to begin shooting. The strike committee commandeers a cafeteria in Wałęsa's old department. Their first step is to make sure news of the strike is not suppressed by the regime. Alina Piankowska, a shipyard nurse, telephones Jacek Koron at the Workers' Defense Committee in Warsaw, who will pass the news to Radio Free Europe and the BBC.
Dzięki temu
Thanks to that, the world could hear about us. Not only the world, also the families of the Gdańsk shipyard workers learned that way why their husbands or fathers or sons didn't come home at the regular time. And this phone call caused people to get organized in the city of Gdańsk.
On Friday morning, the strike has widened. Public transportation has stopped, the port is closed, and 22 factories are on strike, 50,000 workers in all. Government has cut phone lines to the rest of Poland for fear the strikes will spread. But it's too late. All over Poland, people know about the Gdansk strike. In the cafeteria, the strike committee hammers out a list of demands. They prepare leaflets for the striking workers. At the top of the list is the right to free and independent unions and the right to strike. Unprecedented rights that Poland's communist regime will surely resist. On Saturday, the shipyard director has received orders from his Communist Party superiors and is ready to begin negotiating. The shipyard offers generous wage increases and better working conditions, everything but independent unions. But when the vote is taken, management has packed the committee with party officials. The terms are accepted and workers begin going home. As thousands head for the gate, Anna Valentinowicz, recently fired but now reinstated by the strike agreement, reminds them that their settlement has abandoned other workers who have joined the strike.
What about those who supported us? There were 40 factories. What about these people? I felt ashamed and hopeless. What should we do?
Alina Piankowska, the nurse, runs to the main gate and tries to stop the workers. A small crowd gathers to listen as she pleads with them to stay.
If we really want free trade unions, if we really want any influence on management, we should act in solidarity with the others, that is, to continue the strike.
Thousands have gone home, but a few hundred are persuaded by Alina's argument. They will stay the night to keep the strike alive. During that night, they take a fateful decision to form an inter-factory strike committee to represent all workers in all of Poland. This committee will magnify their force 1,000 times and create a base of popular power never before seen in communist Poland. On Sunday morning, workers improvise a Catholic Mass inside the main gate. Thousands of townspeople gather outside. The gate is decorated with flowers, messages of support, and a photograph of the Pope, who is Polish. It's an unexpected show of support for the strikers.
I had never expected that, such a reaction from the citizens of Gdańsk. It gave me lots of courage and energy to act, because I realized that we were probably going to be able to achieve something.
The Inter-Factory Strike Committee has published 21 demands, a document that has galvanized workers in other cities. One of them is a 27-year-old electrician at a tractor factory near Warsaw, Zbigniew Bujak.
Suddenly we learned about the strike in Gdansk. We read the 21 demands. And as we say in Poland, we felt, literally speaking, like we caught God by the arm. We suddenly felt that we had in our hands a tool, which, if we don't make a mistake, must produce some wonderful fruit.
In Gdansk, the strikers who spent the weekend inside the shipyard have been rewarded. 15,000 workers now return and rejoin the strike. The Inter-Factory Strike Committee waits for a response to the 21 demands. While they wait, more factories join the strike. They steadily gain leverage over a system that has never permitted the existence of a power separate from the Communist Party. Everywhere, workers follow the example set in Gdansk, reducing risk by staying inside their workplaces.
We are not going out of the gate, because there it is very easy for the authorities to provoke. Simply provoke and then introduce police and the military. So we wanted to avoid that. We knew about the activities of Gandhi, for example, or what Martin Luther King did. And we knew that these people, building the theory of non-violent resistance, they won.
The second week begins. Strikers are publishing a daily bulletin called Solidarity and making preparations for a long struggle.
Można powiedzieć, że na terenie stoczni w tym
Well, you could say that inside the shipyard there was a second government of Poland. We had a sense of humor about it.
że był minister łączności,
We had the Minister of Communication, the Minister of Social Welfare and Salaries, who gathered money.
minister finansów, który trzymał
There was a Minister of Finance, who kept the money we gathered from various companies that were coming here.
tutaj przyjeżdżały. Za służbę bezpieczeństwa stoczniową był
There was a Minister of Security, who was responsible for all the security guards, defense of the fences, and the food. Everything worked like clockwork, like a Swiss watch.
Their patience has given them strength. By the 9th day, the Inter-Factory Strike Committee speaks for nearly 500,000 workers in 370 factories in every industry and region of Poland. Government negotiators arrive at the shipyard. The long stalemate appears to be over. Jerzy Kolodziejski, provincial governor of Gdansk, was on the negotiating team.
Some people were clapping, happy that here is the authorities, the province governor, entering the shipyard, starting the negotiations. Others were swearing, booing, and calling me names. I had no doubt I was going to be the sacrificial lamb.
Workers demand that all discussions be broadcast over shipyard loudspeakers. Polish news media must be allowed to cover the strike and talks. The government has come to the bargaining table after 10 days of stalling.
It all backfired. It turned out that these 10 days were used by the strikers to strengthen organizationally, to strengthen the Inter-Factory Strike Committee, and to convince people that without negotiations with the committee, an end to the conflict is impossible.
Mieczysław Jagielski, Poland's first deputy prime minister, faces Lech Wałęsa, a 37-year-old electrician. Jagielski is accustomed to microphones and cameras. Wałęsa describes himself as a simple worker, following his heart.
Społeczeństwo polskie na przykładzie społeczeństwa Wybrzeża dało dowody
The regime has called the strikers traitors.
swojej dojrzałości.
Now the deputy prime minister has been sent to negotiate with them.
Uważam, że należy powołać nowe związki.
The strike committee is cautious, knowing that if they push too hard, the game will be lost, and that Soviet military intervention is a real possibility.
Że uczestnicy i
Negotiators for the workers are in no hurry.
wspomagający strajk nie będą
Having seized the initiative, they go word by word over the language dealing with independent unions, brushing aside the government's eagerness to move on to other issues.
okaże się,
Punkt po punkcie, po parę godzin każdy następny redagowali. Albo, że tak powiem, przyjmujemy to, co powiedziałem i przystępujemy do realizacji.
Panie premierze, naprawdę to już nie jest dużo pracy w tych najważniejszych punktach. Te inne polecą dość szybko, dlatego też proponuję, tyle czekaliśmy, sobota jest, niedziela jeszcze przepracujemy i zrobimy, będziemy mieli na piśmie, pan premier przyjedzie.
Taktyka strajkujących
The tactics of the strikers were this.
musimy rozstrzygnąć.
We have to get agreement for free trade unions. All the rest will follow. Wałęsa said, Mr. Prime Minister, let's not talk about these things. These are details. What we have to have is free trade unions.
Coś nie dogadać się w czymś. My chcemy, jeśli to wszystko dobrze pójdzie...
During nearly 2 weeks of talks, Wałęsa reports regularly to the rank and file.
ale wytrzymamy jeszcze choć...
He seeks consensus, with an openness unheard of in Poland's official unions. Worker solidarity is not lost on their adversaries.
Żaden strajk.
No previous strike was carried out under so decisively, with such will of victory and such consolidation. The conviction that we have to leave this room victorious. It was the conviction not only of the Inter-Factory Strike Committee, but of all the workers who surrounded us, and the dozens of thousands of people who surrounded the shipyard. All this had its effect. It softened us. Frankly speaking, it did.
Idle factories create pressures that benefit the strikers. In Gdansk, valuable machinery and unfinished ships are being held hostage. Increasingly desperate to resume production, the regime gradually accepts an accommodation. On Sunday, August 31st, an agreement is ready to sign. They have won pay raises, a 5-day work week, relaxed press censorship, free trade unions, and the right to strike.
Ja powiedziałem pierwszego dnia, że zwyciężymy i zwyciężyliśmy. Taka jest polska prawda.
Jednocześnie jakby widząc jak podpisywane,
seeing these accords being signed, we immediately realized that this is the first stage, and it is only now that the real race against time, against the clock, begins for us. And the real tactical, intellectual struggle with the other party, with those in power, is beginning. Because it was obvious to us that they were signing the accords, but they will immediately want to break them.
The race against time begins as Wałęsa and Valentynowicz tour the country to celebrate their success, recruit new members, and create hundreds of affiliated local unions. In 4 months, Solidarity membership grows to 10 million. Explicitly concerned with the welfare of Polish working people, Solidarity can't avoid an obvious reality. Its very existence challenges the supremacy of the Communist Party.
I was feeling that from the very beginning, the other side was preparing to hit us. But when they were ready to hit 100 organizations, by that time there were 1,000 organizations. When they got prepared to hit the 1,000, it was not 1,000, it was 10,000. And it was not 100,000 members, but 1 million, and later 10 million.
They must grow quickly, becoming big enough that when the inevitable backlash comes, Solidarity will be too powerful to destroy. Union activists are harassed, their newspapers censored, offices raided. Workers are ordered to work 2 Saturdays a month, an open breach of the agreement. Solidarity fights back.
Tak. Wydaje mi się, że w poniedziałek postawię cały kraj na nogi. Zrobię strajk. Pan tak przekaże to. Ja mam dość żartów i podjazdów. Panie wojewu, pan dobrze wie. Więc pan przekaże rządowi, że w poniedziałek prawdopodobnie dam rozkaz do strajku generalnego. Dziękuję. Trochę demokracji, trochę wolności osobistej. Przez każdych ludzi. O, nie dam rady. Tak może trudno. Niekulturalnie tego nie mogę.
A year after it was founded, the union re-elects Wałęsa as president.
Lech Wałęsa.
But Solidarity's open democratic structure makes it vulnerable to its own extremists and to infiltrators.
No ale było paru takich agentów.
There were some agents, you can hear them on the tapes even now, who were pouring oil on the flames, saying, to make a demonstration in Warsaw, gather 100,000, 200,000 people, and then hand-to-hand fighting.
I myślę, że
Obviously, there was no other course for the authorities. Either give up power and start democratic elections, or tanks and put us in prison.
On the night of December the 11th, 1981, communist authorities raid a conference of Solidarity's national leaders. The entire presidium is arrested in its hotel. In the next 2 days, Solidarity activists are rounded up by the thousands. Martial law is declared on December 13th.
Ja w momencie internowania uderzyłem.
At the moment when they hit us, I said this.
Otóż właśnie
Right at this moment, you have lost. We are winning. And you have driven the last nails into your communist coffin.
Martial law is an admission that the regime has lost the people's consent. Relying solely on the power to prohibit, the regime has lost all ability to persuade. Though the union is banned, popular support for it is undiminished. Solidarity becomes a non-violent resistance movement, infused with a sense of Polish patriotism. Stripped of a central leadership, Solidarity lives on in thousands of small organizations, too many to crush. An underground press unifies them as they both resist and ignore state power.
I knew this was my method to fight. I am not afraid of you. You can lock me up. You can kill me. But you cannot defeat me. So the struggle will continue. It will last some time. It will cost. But we shall win.
For 7 years, repression creates the appearance of stability. But below the surface, the foundation is rotting. In summer 1988, it collapses as price increases, food lines, and rationing paralyze the country. A new wave of strikes is beyond the government's ability to control. The regime offers to re-legalize Solidarity if Lech Wałęsa will negotiate an end to the strikes. Within 3 days, the country is back at work. Solidarity has proven itself a capable and responsible force. In February 1989, Solidarity, the government, the party and the church begin roundtable talks on Poland's future. After 2 months of negotiations, they agree on free unions, a free press and parliamentary elections. In a 2-month campaign, Solidarity candidates are popular, but no one expects them to dislodge the Communist Party. On June 4th, 1989, Poland votes in the first open democratic elections in more than 60 years. That night, in the square outside Lech Wałęsa's apartment, the victory is celebrated. Solidarity has defeated the Communist Party by a margin of 10-1.
If they just opened a small crack in these doors to freedom, I'd put my working class boot in those doors, and they won't close them.